Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Food and Mood. This webinar contains generalized advice that is correct at the time of recording. Always speak with your medical professional if you've been given any specialised dietary advice. So my name's Daniel and I'm a dietitian and a member of the Public Health Dietitians Group in Northern Ireland. I'm currently based in the Belfast Health and Social Care Trust within the Public Health Dietetics team. So talking about mood provides a good opportunity to highlight the Minding Your Head website, which is shown on the screen here. It provides lots of practical information and advice to help us protect and look after our mental health and emotional well-being, and encourages to reach out for help and support when needed. If you have any concerns about your physical or emotional well-being, you should always contact your GP in the first instance. So most of us know when we're physically and mentally well, but sometimes we need a little extra support to keep well. The Take 5 campaign promotes 5 simple steps to help maintain and improve your well-being. Try to build these into your daily life and think of them as your 5 a day for well-being. And the Take 5 steps are connect, be active, take notice, keep learning, and give. So today we're going to focus on the link between food and our mental health. How the food we eat can affect our mood / the way we are feeling, just as how we feel can influence the kind of foods that we choose to eat. So in this session, we'll look at the do's and don'ts of food and mood, and then finishing off with top tips and helpful hints on making healthy changes. It's worth noting that while a balanced diet can help prevent diet-related low mood and sets a good foundation for optimum mood and overall health and well-being, it cannot prevent, for example, depression, which is caused by many other non-dietary factors. As said earlier, if you have any serious concerns, it's best that you discuss this with your GP. So what is a healthy balanced diet? So this is the Eat Well guide, and it basically shows how we can have a healthy balanced diet. The Eat Well guide applies to most people from the age of 5 years onwards, including people of all ethnic origins, those who follow a vegetarian diet. The Eat Well guide shows different types of foods and drinks we should have, as well as the proportions of them, and is split into your 5 groups of fruit and vegetables, starchy carbohydrates, protein, dairy and alternatives, and then oils and spreads. And then foods high in fat, salt and sugar sit outside of the guide, as these are not considered to be an essential part of a healthy balanced diet, and rather to have them now and again in moderation. Not every plate needs to be based on the Eat Well guide, but rather your diet as a whole over a longer period of time, for example, the duration of the day or of a week. Overall, it shows that there is no bad or good foods, but it shows that there's foods that we should have more of and some we should have less of, trying to get a good balance of them all. Vitamins and minerals come from all different food groups, so if you skip out on a food group, you miss out on key vitamins and minerals. That's why we should try and get a variety of different foods to get all the important vitamins and minerals we need, which helps stabilize our mood, rather than focusing on only having or avoiding certain food groups. So why have a healthy balanced diet? So the main reason is to manage our mental health and for good overall health. A healthy balanced diet is essential, basically. So every system of our body is affected by what and how much of what we eat and drink, and it affects mental health and quality of life too. Unfortunately, no foods can offer a magic cure to mental health conditions. However, a well-balanced diet is essential for giving our bodies and minds the best opportunity for good health possible. Food and mood is a complicated subject. The evidence available is complex, as so many different factors affect what we eat, how we eat affects our body, and what impacts our mental health. As a dietitian, I can only provide information that's been proven to be true, safe, and reliable. So the do's and don'ts of food and mood. So the do's are regular meals, breakfast, fruit and vegetables and carbohydrates, iron, fluids, and keep active. And then the don'ts are caffeine, detox diets, superfoods, energy drinks, and sugar. As we go through the do's, have a think about your own diet so that at the end you can consider whether there are any areas that you want to change. So first up is regular meals in the do's. So what happens whenever you skip a meal? So generally we start to feel grumpy, start to feel weak, and have no energy, and headaches can occur. And this is because your body and brain doesn't have enough energy to function properly. So always try to eat at regular intervals. So if you eat at regular times, you may find it easier to sustain your energy levels. We would always encourage to try and eat 3 meals a day, plus have a healthy snack such as fruit or low-fat yogurt in between meals if necessary. Having regular meals also helps to prevent reaching for those less healthy foods and snacks. And it is also important to try not to overeat, as this can cause fatigue. So try to eat mindfully to allow your body to recognize when it's full and watch your portion sizes. If you're overweight, the types of foods and portion sizes chosen will be key. If appetite is poor or eating is exhausting, smaller but more frequent regular meals and snacks may help sustain energy levels. Regular meals equals a regular supply of energy. The brain needs the right mix of nutrients for it to work properly and energy to work. It uses up to 20% of all energy needed by the body. So the brain relies on a steady supply of glucose or energy from starchy carbohydrate foods as its main fuel source. If there's not enough energy coming into the body and the brain, it's difficult for the brain and body to function correctly. So you might have heard of serotonin before, and serotonin is basically a hormone that helps stabilize mood, feelings of well-being and happiness. Low serotonin levels lead to unstable moods, irritability and poor sleep. You need to ensure regular meals to ensure a steady supply of serotonin. So low carbohydrates equals low blood sugars and low serotonin, which can leave you feeling tired and irritable. So what do we mean by regular meals? So make a plan for your meals and snacks in the day or even the week. Have healthy snacks at hand, especially if you know you'll be tight for time, and don't wait until you're very hungry, as then your mood will probably have already taken a dip and you're more likely to turn for the quick fix foods like your chocolates and sweets. As earlier, we'd recommend where possible 3 meals a day and healthy snacks between meals if necessary. So up next in the do's is breakfast. So you might have heard that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and in many ways this could be true. So breakfast helps to kickstart our metabolism in the morning by providing that much needed energy boost after a night's sleep. Breakfast basically stands for breaking the fast. It helps to keep our blood sugar level steady, so we don't opt for craving sugary snacks. So a number of studies report health benefits of regularly eating breakfast. So it's shown to increase energy levels and concentration throughout the day. It's shown to help us make better food choices, and by this we mean research shows a kind of positive correlation with weight management. So those who eat breakfast are less likely to be overweight and more likely to be successful in weight loss attempts than those who skip breakfast, because they're more likely to make healthy food choices throughout the day. So despite this, up to a third of us regularly skip breakfast, and this is according to the British Dietetic Association. Maybe because of, for example, not enough time in the morning, or you don't fancy breakfast first thing in the morning, or it's just not in your habit. So we would always say try and form new healthy habits. So consider why you don't eat it and think of how you can overcome these barriers. Choose or pre-prepare a handy breakfast, or have breakfast whenever you get into work or on the way to work if you get public transport or walk, for example. And a good thing to remember is that it doesn't need to be as soon as you wake up. So try and aim for within 1 hour of waking up. So go for healthier options such as your porridge made with lower fat milk or water, or for example, overnight oats. Choose low sugar, high fiber cereals such as bran or wheat biscuits. Another idea could be a boiled or poached eggs with wholemeal toast and low fat spread. So next up in the do's is carbohydrates. So carbohydrates often get unfair bad press. Starchy carbohydrates include your foods like your bread, rice, pasta, cereals, and potatoes, and they are our main source of energy. So a total of 50% of your total energy intake should come from starchy carbohydrates, and according to the Eat Well guide, they should make up about 33% of your total diet. We should aim to include a carbohydrate at each meal. Intake of carbohydrate foods leads to serotonin release, the hormone that we spoke about earlier that affects mood. So low carbohydrates, as said earlier, leads to low blood sugars and low serotonin that can make you feel tired and irritable. Foods such as your breakfast cereals and bread are also fortified with a number of different vitamins and minerals that help us meet our daily requirements. So high fiber carbohydrates are those that are recommended most. So high fiber carbohydrates provide slow release energy and help us feel full for longer and stabilize our blood sugar levels. Having enough fiber also helps to keep our guts healthy. There is some interesting links between mood and the gut microbiome, which is the trillions of bacteria that reside in the human colon. However, more research is needed before any definitive advice can be given about this. However, what we do know is that lack of fiber leads to constipation, and constipation can leave you feeling bloated, tired, and generally out of sorts. We need enough fiber and fluids to reduce the risk of constipation, and the recommendation is to go for about 30 grams of fiber each day. Whole grain breakfast cereals also often have added B vitamins, and B vitamins help with energy release and prevent tiredness and feelings of depression and irritability. Wholemeal bread also provides selenium, and low levels of selenium can lead to feelings of depression and low mood. So up next in the do's is your fruit and vegetables. So the current recommendation is to aim for at least 5 portions of fruit and vegetables per day. Your fresh, frozen, canned, juiced and dried all count. However, it's important to note that you should only aim for to have a maximum of 1 of each of the dried and juiced per day, and rather aim to get your 5 a day from the whole fruit instead. Fruit and vegetables also provide vitamins and minerals needed for a healthy immune system, which help fight things like your colds and other diseases. Fruit and vegetables also contain fiber, and they can also affect our mood. So, for example, fruit and vegetables contain folate, which is a B vitamin and is found in green vegetables, oranges, other citrus fruits, beans, and fortified foods such as yeast extract, liver, and fortified breakfast cereals. Having low amounts kind of leads to an increased chance of feeling depressed, particularly important in older people. So can you get all the vitamins and minerals you need by taking a vitamin supplement? So the answer is basically no. So vitamins and mineral supplements are no substitute for a healthy, well-balanced diet. We should try and get all the vitamins and minerals we need from food first. There's some vitamins which we can't always get enough out of from our food. For example, vitamin D, which everyone should consider taking a supplement of in the winter and autumn months. And for some, like under fives, those who are inside most of the time, those with dark skin or skin which is usually covered, should consider taking a vitamin D supplement all year round. Folic acid is another supplement which all sexually active women of childbearing age should take. And if you've been prescribed any supplements for your doctor for like another reason, then you should take them as prescribed. So up next in the do's is iron. So iron makes hemoglobin, which is a protein that's found in our red blood cells, and it is responsible for carrying oxygen in the red blood cells to travel around the body to your cells and your muscles to function properly and provide oxygen for energy release. A diet low in iron can lead to iron deficiency anemia, which can make you feel tired and run down and can cause fatigue, low mood, and poor concentration. Teenage girls and young women are especially at risk because they lose a lot of iron in their menstrual blood during their periods. So iron foods can be split into two categories. So your animal sources and plant or vegetable sources. So good animal sources of iron are liver, meat, particularly red meat, chicken, and fish. Iron from animal sources is more easily absorbed than plant sources. So your plant sources then can include your dark green leafy vegetables, things like beans and lentils, things like dried fruits such as dried apricots, whole grains such as brown rice and fortified breakfast cereals, soybean flour, and then, as I said earlier, most dark green leafy vegetables. It's worth noting that it's more difficult to absorb the iron from plant sources. Therefore, to help the body absorb iron from these foods, vitamin C is required. So the advice would be to try and include fruit and vegetables alongside these foods if they are your main source of iron in the diet. So up next in the do's is fluids. So you need good fluid intake to avoid dehydration. So dehydration can make you feel irritable, tired, poor concentration, dizziness, and confused, which all can lead to a low mood. Typically, if you're feeling thirsty, you're already dehydrated. So to prevent dehydration, we need to drink plenty. So about 6 to 8 glasses every day, of which should be about 250 milliliters each. Water is the best option, followed by milk, tea, coffee, and juices count, but these may contain caffeine and or sugar, so it's best to limit these throughout the day. So the top tips is to have drinks with meals, drink in between your meals, have a bottle of water with you at all times, keep water in the fridge as it's easier to drink when it's cold, and if you don't like plain water, you can add some fruit for flavour. So how do you know you're adequately hydrated? So we would always recommend using the wee checker as a handy tool. So if your pee is between the colours of 8 and 4, it indicates that you're dehydrated and need to drink more. However, healthy pee would be pale in colour to completely clear, and that means you're hydrated. So up next in the do's is keep active. So it might not be food related, but keeping active has so many benefits for our health and mental health. So exercise and keeping active releases endorphins. You might have heard of these before, but basically they are the happy hormones. For people with mild to moderate depression, exercise can be a really good tool and beneficial for improving mood. Exercise also reduces the levels of the body's stress hormones, such as adrenaline and cortisol, which leads to improved mood and ability to cope with stress. And less stress also helps to improve sleep, which in turn can help improve mood. Exercise also increases energy. So exercise increases blood flow to the brain, which increases its oxygen supply, therefore reducing tiredness and increasing alertness. Many people feel tired and sluggish during winter. As the days become shorter, your sleep and waking cycles become disrupted. Less sunlight also means your brain produces more of a hormone called melatonin, which makes you feel sleepy. So try and get outdoors in the natural daylight as much as possible and do daily exercise such as a brisk walk. Exercise also provides more confidence for you. Whenever we set ourselves realistic and achievable exercise goals, we can grow in confidence as we achieve them, leading to more positive and helpful judgment of ourselves. Other benefits of exercise are better sleep, so your muscles and body have been used, so you'll be ready for a rest. It helps maintain a healthy weight, improves your bowels. So we talked about fiber and water preventing constipation earlier. Well, movement is very important too, and also leads to better overall health. So exercise helps to reduce your risk of early death by up to 30%, and that statistic comes from the NHS. So how much? So for adults, the recommendation is to do at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity exercise a week, or 75 minutes of vigorous intensity exercise, or a combination of the both, and try to include 2 days of strength building exercises per week as well. Those under 18 and those, for example, pregnant women will have different guidelines. As a guide, moderate activity will raise your heart rate and make you breathe faster and feel warmer. One way to tell if you're working at a moderate intensity is if you're able to talk, but you can't sing. Vigorous intensity activity then makes you breathe hard and fast. If you're working at this level, you'll not be able to say more than a few words without pausing for a breath. If you're currently not active, start gradually, and if you've got any health concerns, you may want to speak with your GP first. So any exercise is better than none, so try to reduce long periods of not being active or sitting. So many adults in the UK spend up to 9 hours a day sitting, and this includes watching TV, using the computer, reading, doing homework, travelling by car, bus or train, but it doesn't include sleeping time. Sitting in one position for long periods of time can sap your energy, even if you're watching the TV or using the computer, for example, because your body equates the stillness with going to sleep. So the message is basically sit less and move more. Even when you're sitting for long periods of time, find opportunities to get up and move. For example, get out of the chair every 20 minutes and stretch. Go up and down the stairs during ad breaks whenever you're watching TV. Park your car further away from in the car park, or go for short walks during lunch. Or if you're able to, even walk to work. You don't have to go to the gym. Instead, you can just get outside or even try some home workouts if you prefer that. Find an activity that you love doing and something that fits your current lifestyle, and make gradual steps to doing a little more, and even get family and friends involved or consider joining a class for extra motivation. So now let's look at the things that don't help improve our mood and might even have a bad effect on our mental health. So first is caffeine. So when low on energy, it can be tempting to reach for a coffee cup or an energy drink. But unfortunately, these only stimulate us and give us a boost in the short term, as we soon come down from that feeling again and can make us feel even worse. So caffeine is found in things like tea and coffee and high energy drinks and chocolate. So small amounts are okay, however, caution is needed as too much caffeine in some people can cause an increased heart rate, increased feelings of anxiety and panic attacks, and it can interrupt sleep, which can make it more difficult for you to manage stress and anxiety. For those who live with general anxiety disorders, having too much caffeine can make you more anxious than normal. Cutting down on caffeine can help with managing the feelings of anxiety. So how much is too much? So there's no official safe limits for the general population. However, pregnant women are advised not to have more than 200 milligrams per day, and that's the maximum amount. And as high levels of caffeine in pregnancy can result in babies having a low birth weight, which can increase the risk of health problems later in life. It's also worth noting that caffeine is not suitable for toddlers and children. So the European Food Standards or European Food Safety Agency, or the EFSA, recommends that you shouldn't have more than 400 milligrams per day and no more than 200 milligrams in one sitting. And research shows intake exceeding 300 milligrams has been linked with increased anxiety. So as a guide, the above foods contain a coffee cup of instant coffee, of tea, of 75 milligrams of caffeine. Instant coffee, about 100 milligrams of caffeine. Filtered coffee, about 140 milligrams of caffeine. Chocolate contains about 10 milligrams of caffeine. A tin of cola, about 40 milligrams of caffeine, and energy drinks can range between 80 to 240 milligrams of caffeine. So top tips is to break the habit, try and choose caffeine-free drinks or swap to decaf or lower caffeine drinks, and then avoid caffeine before bed. And just a closer look at energy drinks. So some people turn to energy drinks for a quick boost, which they do give, but it doesn't last too long. So as I said earlier, energy drinks can have high levels of caffeine and may also be very high in sugar or sweeteners due to their sweet taste. Some can contain up to 16 teaspoons or 80 grams of sugar in one bottle. They're usually higher in caffeine than other fizzy drinks, and the Food Standards Agency says a small 250 ml can contains about 80 milligrams of caffeine, which is similar to about 3 cans of cola, and some can contain up to about 240 milligrams of caffeine. They also contain other ingredients, like taurine, ginseng, and guarana, which can also affect the heart blood pressure and cause other problems too. So what is the harm? So research is ongoing into the effects of energy drinks, and some negative effects of regular use include anxiety, panic attacks, fatigue, poor sleep, high blood pressure, heart disease, and rotten teeth. And very high doses have been shown in some people to cause hallucinations, seizures, stroke, and death. So take care with energy drinks. Limit how much you have. Never have them before bed. Never mix them with alcohol, and they're not suitable for those under 16 or pregnant women. So next up in the don'ts is sugar. So when you're feeling low, we can often reach for foods like sweets, chocolate, biscuits, cakes, high sugar drinks, and coffees for comfort. Eating and drinking these when you're feeling down in the dumps can give us a feeling of satisfaction and contentment. However, the feeling is short-lived, and as our blood glucose levels drops, we may feel a slump in both energy and mood. Earlier we talked about we know that serotonin releases when carbohydrate foods are eaten. Not having enough carbohydrate can lead to what we call a carbohydrate craving, whenever we basically crave a quick fix of carbohydrates, so we turn to sweet foods. But actually what we really need is regular supply of slow-release carbohydrates. Having sweet sugary foods won't help keep our energy up for long or our mood up in the long term. So beat the sugar cravings. We all know we need to keep an eye on our sugar intake, as too much can cause unwanted weight gain and affect our teeth. So instead of turning to sugary foods whenever you're feeling the slump, try to have regular meals to keep the energy levels up and choose healthier and filling snacks between your meals. It's worth remembering that no food is bad food, and you can include them occasionally, but just try to limit the amount you have and how often you have them. Well, up next is detox diets. So detox diets is a popular term in the beauty and well-being world, with many drinks, teas, supplements and diets claiming they can clear the toxic waste from our body to stay healthy. But do they work? And the short answer is no. So if by detox you mean avoiding alcohol and eating lots of processed foods, that's great. But if you mean cutting out specific food groups, then that's not so great. Unless you have a very serious medical condition, your body does a great job of detoxification itself. So 24/7, our organs, such as our liver, lungs, skin, gut and kidneys, are all involved in getting rid of waste products from the body. Severely cutting down what you eat and drink, or having high doses of certain nutrients or supplements, doesn't only not work to detox the body, but it can end up being harmful to the body. A detox diet is one example of what we call a fad diet. So how to spot a fad diet? So fad diets are basically those diets that will include cutting out whole food groups, for example, or eating lots of one thing. They're usually elaborate and complex, and they tend to demonize certain food groups, and they also make big promises. So stay clear of fad diets because they're not based on evidence, they don't provide enough nutrients, and they can cause health problems. Instead, as we discussed earlier, we recommend getting a healthy, balanced diet based on the Eat Well guide. So up next in the don'ts is superfoods. So the word superfood is often heard when talking about health, but what does the word actually mean? So superfoods is really a made-up word for a food which someone, often celebrities, or a company claims has super nutritional qualities. However, the truth is there is no measure for what a superfood actually is, and there's no regulations over what foods are actually considered to be super. And really, lots of foods that are great and there are lots of foods that are great and have good nutritional properties, but there's no evidence to suggest that eating huge amounts of any of these foods alone will help. And there's no evidence that a single food can provide an energy boost, and no single food, including those labeled as superfoods, can compensate for unhealthy eating. So, in today's modern world, we're constantly bombarded with information about diet and health in the media, with lots of misinformation going around. So hardly a day goes by without some wonder claim about a new diet that has come out. Lots of people claim to be experts and can sound very convincing, but most of them actually aren't. So what we're trying to say is try to look behind the headlines and the diet promoted, and look closely at the type of diet that is recommended, and think about how it compares to your understanding of healthy diet as highlighted in the Eat Well guide. So what qualifies the person to give nutrition advice, as the only people who are really qualified to do that are registered nutritionists and dietitians, so always bear that in mind when reading about these new diets that come out in the media. So to sum up the do's and don'ts, so the do's are regular meals, breakfast, fruit and vegetables and carbohydrates, iron, fluids and keeping active. And then the don'ts for food and mood are caffeine, detox diets, superfoods, energy drinks and sugar. We're not saying that this will guarantee good mood all the time or eliminate mental health issues, but it will certainly help ensure your body has all the nutrients it needs to stay well. So the top tips and helpful hints. So it's not always easy preparing healthy meals, especially whenever your mood is low or your motivation is hard to find. So being prepared with quick and healthy meals can really help when these times occur, and some tips for doing this are coming up. So bulk cook. So bulk cook is a great way to save money on the electricity. And it also means you can use bulk packs of ingredients, which often work out cheaper in the long run. And it also saves time as well. So basically to bulk cook, you cook a full recipe and divide it into portions and place in separate containers to eat the next day or to freeze it for again. And always make sure to label and date your container. Lots of meals can be frozen, for example stews, pasta bakes, soups, chilies, lasagnas and curries. Ideally, we'd suggest defrosting in the fridge overnight, and once defrosted, reheat thoroughly in the pan, oven or microwave until piping hot the whole way through. And always remember you can only reheat the food once. So pre-prepared ingredients. So buy pre-prepared veg, fresh, tinned or frozen. This can save time and bulk out dinners, reducing the cost of meat within the dish, for example. So store cupboard staples. so that you will always be able to put together simple, healthy, easy meals. So store cupboard staples are those kind of foods that keep in the cupboard in your home, and they're always readily available to use to make a healthy meal, basically. So here are some examples of the store cupboard staples that we would recommend. So things like your cereals, things like rice and pastas, stock cubes, things like nuts and seeds, even like your frozen veg and fruit, things like tinned meat, tinned vegetables, tinned fruit, and all those sort of things are store cupboard staples that will always be readily available at hand to make a healthy, nutritious meal whenever you're feeling low on motivation or your mood isn't great. So don't be afraid to take help offered, and always remember you can always ask for help as well. Meals on Wheels services are available, for example, for those who aren't able to cook or don't have the time to cook or don't have the motivation to cook. And family and friends, always make use of family and friends to ask for help as well if they're available. So it's not always easy getting started on the path to healthier eating. So here's our top tips on how to begin and keep going. So focus on what motivates you. It could maybe be improved health, fitting into a favorite outfit, better mobility, reduced pain, or just being fit and able to play with your kids or grandkids, for example. So track how you reach that goal. Keep an eye on what motivates you, as this will help whenever you hit bumps on your healthier eating journey. And then always try and set yourself 2 to 3 SMART goals. So SMART goals are those which are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. So instead of saying I'm going to eat more fruit, a SMART goal would more look like this. So I will eat 2 extra pieces of fruit this week by having an apple with my mid-morning cup of tea or coffee on Tuesday and Wednesday instead of a biscuit. So get support as well. Manage setbacks. As mentioned at the start, setbacks will happen and there will be detours and bumps in the road. It is a long-term journey and not a quick fix. So the occasional slip-up or lapse is normal. None of us are perfect, but we should also learn from the slip-ups too. So identify the triggers, come up with solutions to overcome and avoid falling at the same hurdle again. So for example, a slip-up could be eating in the evenings whenever you're feeling bored, and possible solutions or options could be fill your evening with a new hobby, for example. And always keep your fridges and cupboards filled with healthy, low-calorie snacks. Choose not to buy high-calorie snacks as well in the supermarket, as this will limit temptation, as they're not available in the house just to eat whenever you want them, basically. But the most important thing to remember is never give up and keep going. So thank you very much for listening to the webinar. The Public Health Dietitians Group provides facilitator training for and support the delivery of food values, cook it, I can cook it, and making the most of your slow cooker programs, all of which give you the opportunity to cook new meals and find out more about how to eat well on a budget. So always look out for these programs and sign up where possible. So here on this slide is also just some kind of campaigns and websites that we would recommend for nutritional information that you can trust. So we'd always recommend the British Dietetic Association, the NHS website, Safe Food, the British Heart Foundation, and then campaigns could be Better Health, Healthier Families, Choose to Live Better. And then what I would say as well is on the Safe Food website, they provide a PDF recipe book called 101 Square Meals, and also provide food safety advice. So always look this up whenever you're short of motivation or creativity for creating a meal, as something will be in there that you can make. So further nutrition webinars and recipe videos are available on our YouTube channel. So please follow us and subscribe to Public Health Dietitians on YouTube. Thank you very much for listening.